All right, there we go. We're gonna go raw dog. All right. What's good, everyone? Welcome to Evil Dojo. Got some stuff cooking. Let's see. There we go. Uh-oh, I might get fucking knocked out here. Oh shit. Check this out. Hit Q. Press Q again to exit or escape to cancel. It's a real small UI upgrade, right? Check this out. Dagger. Damage 1d4. We're going to hit E to equip. Alright, we got that guy. Buckler equipped. I'm gonna have to get some coffee. But, oh yeah. So the animation for the dagger is specific for the dagger, and we actually have other weapons that you can equip as well too. Check this out. You got me. Pretty tough dude. Let's get the axe. So I need to upgrade that code. At the moment, it is like when you go to select another weapon to equip, when you have one already equipped, it first is unequipping the existing weapon, and you have to like I'm gonna have to handle it so that it does it all in one action, because in the moment it's processing it as if it requires 2 turns. As you can see, we have a very specific animation sprite for the axe when you attack now. I'm getting unlucky with these attacks. There we go. Feels pretty good at this zoom too. Excuse me. Oh, Gracie's up. We're gonna step OUT real quick. I'm gonna get some coffee, get her some water, and we'll see what we can do today. Okay. Yo, what's up, Dulce? How's it going? Fix my streaming stuff here. All right. Hell yeah, how's everyone doing? Grace might want me to sit by her, in which case I'll relocate to the couch. I know it's kind of silly, but I kind of want to do some streams where all I do is literally lay on the couch and chat with y'all. Maybe we can have some of those in the near future. I need to really pump up my my output in a lot of departments. It's getting time to start getting that money, you know what I'm saying? So I am back on the market big time. Looking to pull like another $1,000 a month. I'd be pretty okay at that point. So one way or another, whether it's through tutoring students or through finding and reporting bugs or selling something, or if I'm lucky, I can get a position that pays a regular wage. But the countdown is on. I've got a few months of runway at the moment, and we have gotten the game to what I consider to be a rather good point. There's still a lot to do, but it's in a position now where adding individual things, changing individual things, etc., we can build on top of the system in a very incremental fashion. We can test things very easily, and we can even automate the testing. There's a lot to do. Hundreds upon hundreds of hours worth of work ahead of us. I didn't set out on this thinking it was going to be easy. I didn't set out on this thinking that it was going to be something that took me a short amount of time. But this is effectively the alpha, the demo, the very, very beginning. I'm very happy with where it's at. But as an example, one of the easy things that we can change, that we can improve upon, like right now, shields don't work the way that I plan for them to work. It's still taking me a bit of thinking in order to consider what the final result of this is going to be. But as an example, there's no information attached to shields other than the fact that it's a shield and it has a shield type. Now I think about it, is it going to be better to have my A-Sprite window down here and do that, or should I make the terminal bigger like that? This is a real question. We could do this. Something like that. That might work. Easy thing to change, right? When we go to create a shield, like I said, there's no information attached to the shield other than the fact that it's a shield of type buckler. In considering how the animation should actually play out when combat occurs, we have this thing called guard success. It's a particular index into a sprite group, particularly for NPCs. Managed to unify the NPC animation indice structure, so that way individual actions are associated with specific parts of the array, which is great. So during combat, at the moment, we check the armor class of the target. And if the attack fails, or no, sorry, if the attack is successful, then at the moment what we're doing is we check to see if you have a shield equipped. And if you do have a shield equipped, then that what would have been successful attack now has a % chance of being blocked. I did this in the beginning just for demo purposes. However, in thinking about how the animations should play out during combat, one of the things I think about is how armor class with regards to bucklers worked in the original D&D 3.0. If I remember correctly, equipping a buckler or a shield of some sort gives you a armor class plus. So, for instance, a buckler could have an armor class bonus of 1. So if your base armor class is 10, you get no bonuses from your armor, you get no bonuses from your dexterity, but then you have a plus 1 or plus 2 or whatever because of your buckler. So when an enemy comes to attack you, if they roll from 0 to 10, or sorry, 0 to 9, the attack misses. If they roll a 10, in this case, because you have a plus 1 due to the buckler, if you roll 10, actually, you know, does the attack have to be the same? Like, if they roll and they meet your armor class, that hits, right? So, if they rolled a 10 and your armor class was 11 as a result of having a buckler equipped, then we might want to animate it as a deflection. That's what I was getting at. So, thinking about how to properly handle bucklers. Okay, yeah, so in D&D 3.0, the buckler has a armor bonus of plus 1, a weight associated with it, a armor check penalty, and an arcane spell failure chance. So in order to So in order to properly handle this, right, like, we have to attach an armor class to the shield. And so we need to distinguish between the armor class that's a stat on an entity and the armor class bonus that could be attached to equipment that you're wearing. So first, we're going to define a new component. We're going to call it AC bonus. I don't know what I want to call it. AC bonus now. Maybe it should just be AC. At some point I'm going to go through and consolidate a lot of the components together, because a lot of the components have a very similar pattern. As an example, like every component has an entity ID attached to it, but in addition to that, every component has a some other piece of data, and a lot of them, for instance, might just have a single integer. So it might make sense to actually consolidate a lot of those components into a single type, and then that way I can get rid of a lot of redundant code and the code base will be a lot cleaner. It won't have a really big impact for the player or anybody, but going forward it's also a good pattern now that I've kind of established the routine for creating a new component. So that crashed, but that's okay. Next, I'm gonna go into game state. We have to define a new list, a new count, and a new capacity. Anytime that we create a new component, we have to essentially do this. So when we extended the enum, the component table automatically handles for this. And in fact, the other day I did something really cool. I changed how the component table works. Instead of every slot being an integer that represents like an on or off value, every integer, actually every slot is now a long integer, and every bit of each integer can represent an on or off value. So each long can represent 64 possible components. So if I end up having more than 64 components, there will be another slot added automatically, and this makes the lookup faster. So that was kind of cool to implement. Okay, so now that we've defined that, we have to initialize the new list as well as initialize the new count. Yeah, the new count's down here. And then, all right, so those are the counts, and now we initialize the new list. That's good to go. We have to free the new list. And we need our new accessors. Okay, so, oh wait, and also there's a there's like an initialization function I have to add an entry to right here. This is add component, so like whenever you go to create a whenever you go to create a new entity or anything, right? Whenever you want to add a component, first you have to register the component, and I could probably find a way to like roll these up into a single action. You have to register that it has a weapon type, and then you have to add the weapon type. Then you have to register it as damage, and you have to add damage. So in a similar fashion, using the same pattern, in this case, we're going to hard code the value to be 1. But better yet, you know, we could make it a little bit more better. Whoa. So adding the armor class, right? It's only half the battle here. Assuming that this all still builds and runs. Uh-oh. 4 does not have the required component registered. Oh, and something broke there big time. Okay, we're good. All right, so that's half the battle. The other half of the battle is that we have to associate this now with, for instance, in the inventory menu, we'd want to be able to display the fact that this shield has 2 armor, right? Like the same way that we're able to take a look at the sword or any of our weapons and see what its damage is. We want to do the same thing with the shield. Makes sense, right? So in addition to that, we also want to take that shield's armor into consideration when deciding whether or not an attack is missed, blocked, or gets hit, right? So, like I talked about earlier, we'll have to take into consideration the target's base armor class, as well as any bonuses it gets from anything it's wearing. And so we're starting with shield. Oof. Getting some massive cracks out. How's everyone doing today? Y'all ain't chatting. I want y'all to chat. I need y'all to give me things to respond to in between, you know, when I'm not actively working on something. Kind of make this entertaining for people. You don't want to just hear me ramble on about this game all day. I got other things I can talk about too. Isn't that right, Grace? I just noticed something. There we go. See, like over here in the inventory menu, we want to see the armor class actually display here. There we go. We could see our armor class right there. And now we would want to take that into consideration during the damage calculation, right? Or during the attack calculation. All right, so if the attack roll is less than the base AC, it's just a full miss, right? But if it's greater than or equal to the base AC, and then we would take that into consideration on whether or not this was a block or a miss. Sorry, block or a hit. Oh, no. So if the attack was less than the total AC, then it's blocked. Because in this case, it's greater than the base AC, but less than total. So if it's greater than base AC, and then if it's greater than or equal to total, then that's successful. Damn, these dudes are fucking knocking me out. Nice. So we just watched the block mechanic actually work properly. The attack registers as a miss if the roll was less than your base AC, but it registers as a block if the attack roll was in between your base AC and your total AC after taking your shield into account. It got me. So, as you can see, getting gear and equipping it as soon as possible to get your AC up is going to be really important. Actually, one thing that we do need to do now that we have something that increases our AC is modify the HUD so that it displays our total AC. We're hard coding in 10 at the moment. And actually we are going to need a function that like attempts to calculate someone's total AC. right, let's see if that's sufficient to get that rendering. It's still showing 10. Oh, that's weird. Oh, no. Get stat. That's not right. Oh, hell yeah. All right. Our HUD is updating to show us what our current armor is at. Fuck yeah. Well, even if I don't do anything else, this was a win. I'm gonna need to get something to eat here pretty soon. Came in right on burp. What engine is this? This is my own engine using raylib. I need to get some sound effects up in here. Oops. Like I said earlier, I have to fix how equipping works, but it's still functional. But you should be able to instantly equip something in one action. I don't want to force you to have to unequip something just to equip something else. I mean, you end up unequipping whatever it is you were equipped with during that process, or at least that's what I want, but I have to fix that code still. But the different sprites correctly update when you do equip something. So we have one for sword, one for nothing, one for axe, and one for dagger. And we actually have one for bow too. So we actually have a bow, and the other day I implemented the animation for the bow. You have to do like a little bit of extra animation work to make this proper because it has a different number of frames than the slash animation does. But there you go. We've got a bow animation. Now, I had it commented out because at the moment, like, the way that I'm envisioning how attacking with the bow is going to work is that first you're going to have to press a key to indicate that you're going to be shooting the bow, right? And then you're going to have to move the tile selector icon. So I'm going to have to make this little green box, I'm going to have to make it freeform or detach it from being right next to the player so that you can move it around onto any other tile that you want. And you'll need to do this because I want to be able to let you aim and select anything that's visible, right? Maybe within a certain range, but maybe also the chance of a successful hit decreases by a range, right? So like maybe if you have like really high dexterity or something like that, maybe you have like really high dexterity, you can hit things really far away, but should probably be a cap on that. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. How far in the development would I estimate? Oh God. I would say the hard part's over, depending on which part you call the hard part. It's taken me a long time to really establish not even the visual base, because I got lucky when I found these graphics. There's a wonderful artist out there who's created an asset pack that anyone can buy license to, right? So I'm using that asset pack. It's called Mini Fantasy. And on top of this, I'm also using raylib, which previously I was working on this using libstl, which is a very widely used graphics library. Raylib is rather new in comparison, but it does really good work. It has a very great API and also allows for incredibly easy 3D integration. Not to mention, it builds for web very easily as well. So right out the gate, I've got the ability to launch on Mac OS, Windows, Linux, and iPhone and Android, right? Although if I were to launch on Android and iPhone, I would have to do a lot of work to get the UI to actually function in a way that would actually be good. Not to mention, it'd probably be very difficult to play on such a small screen, even if I were to get like good phone integration going, right? So the preferred experience is probably going to be on a big screen, even though the graphics are old school style. I'm kind of intending for this to be an old school game, but old school from the perspective of it's the mid 1980s, right? But we have the power of 2025. You with me, right? Like, what if we went back to like 1986, the year of my birth, and what if the Nintendo Entertainment System that came out, what if it had like a fucking beastie monster processor? What if it had crazy amounts of RAM, but it only still had the ability to make graphics that looked like this? I'm an old man in comparison to a lot of you kids. I am 39, and I began my journey with Super Mario Brothers. My first memory is at the end of 1988. My brain came online, beating World 8-4 of Super Mario Brothers when I was like not even 3 years old yet. Now, part of the reason it's taken me so long to get to this point has been a lot of lack of guidance. Nobody really pointed me in the direction of what I had to do in order to make a game to begin with. I knew I had to learn how to program. I knew I had to learn how to write code. I figured that out eventually, and I spent a lot of time, years, and I'm talking years and years and years, not only getting good at programming, but also getting good enough to be able to teach other people. Eventually got into a spot where I needed a job, got very lucky and got my first web developer gig about a year after I walked the stage. And from there, I got a lot of experience in the industry. I eventually got a corporate job doing iOS front-end development, as well as some middleware stuff. Before that, I was freelancing doing iOS development out of my bedroom. during connection with the web developer gig. After that, after iOS corporate land, I did corporate penetration testing, and I've not worked a regular software job since then, since about 2016. Since then, I've done a lot of tutoring online, freelancing, working with individual students, and I'm in the position where I'm going to have to either get students again or get some other form of income running, because I got bills to pay and shit. The last few years of my life, I've been living with family, helping take care of my grandmother, who was very sick, who passed away about, how long ago was it now? Is 9 months ago, Jesus, just about. But for years, though, my time was so crunched that I wasn't able to accept any new business. I was lucky to keep the business that I had, and it was able to take care of my bills for a while. But at the very end there, business fell off, and I've been very lucky that I came into a little bit of money when my grandmother passed away. And I've been living off my savings for a long time now, for a few months, and my family was putting a lot of pressure on me to move out since Grandma had died, and they're like, okay, well, we don't need you anymore, so get the fuck out. That was the feeling I got, basically. And my credit got totally wrecked during that time. I was very lucky to get enough stuff rolling that I was able to get into a position where I could move out and get my own place again. And I've been here now about a month and a half, and it's not bad. It's one of the nicer places that I've ever lived in. I'm still establishing my routine and really getting comfortable, because before all of that stuff with Grandma went down, I had my own place. I was tutoring. I had a pretty steady, clientele basis, and I was getting ahead on things. I was living life. I was doing okay. I didn't have any pets. I was totally alone, but I was financially stable. And then my mom passed away, and she died from COVID-19 in July of 2021, and I think back to a conversation I had with her towards one of the last times I saw her in person, and it really goes to show you the level of desperation that drug addiction can put someone in when they're not able to think clearly enough about establishing a strong future where things that you put lots of work into come to fruition. Because when I told her that this is what I wanted to do and that this was my life's work, and she began to ask questions and stuff about, like, well, how long does this kind of thing take to make? How many days, weeks, months, etc. And I told her, it's like, well, I don't necessarily know that right out the gate. I can't put a number on that right now. And she said, I don't think that's a very good way to make money. I don't think that's going to be a fruitful venture to get into. And that is a fact. Unfortunately, it is very hard to make money, to make a living as a game developer, especially as an independent game developer. A lot of people who got involved in the industry in the 80s and 90s managed to get jobs for big companies and were able to operate in a space when it was so new that they had a lot more control over the end result or their final product. The reality of being a game developer in the industry nowadays is more about being a cog in a machine, I feel like. You're lucky if you have a good team, a good code base that you're working on. Having done like professional software stuff, I've worked in these environments, so I can imagine what working in on a big game or something can be like. And part of my vision is that a lot of what I want to build, what can be built, can be done entirely in code. And it can be done in a way where you don't need a huge beastie IDE. You don't need a crazy amount of RAM or CPU. You don't need to log into something. That's one of my biggest problems with Unity right out the gate, is that you have to log in just to be able to use it, just to be able to work on a game. That's not right. If ever is the day when I have to log in to write code, that's the day I dip out on humankind. Totally. It's there. Of course, it would never happen, right? But a lot of the space, a lot of the industry is leading in that direction. A lot of the industry tries to package solutions in a way where where people don't have to think about what they're doing, and they just do something. And some people will say, well, the point of a lot of these tools is to reduce developer friction. In other words, to make the process of getting started easier. And that might be well and true and all. Well, thanks. Yeah, it is a passion. It's not necessarily making games that's been the passion, but coding has been the passion, right? This is really the first game that I've ever gotten to this point, and it's not even a full game yet. Yeah, I think I got things figured out. Yeah, it is also a dream of mine to be able to put my name on something that I'm happy with. I've worked in software for a very long time, and while I've learned a lot and I've been very happy about that, I have not been paid to work on things that I've been absolutely ecstatic about. A lot of times the things that I've been paid for have been just things that I say, okay, I'll do it because I need a paycheck. I just kind of say to myself, well, I mean, if I'm going to get a paycheck, I would prefer to earn it working as close to this space as possible. And if that means that I have to suck it up and use an IDE or some other tool that I'm not a big fan of, then that's fine. But when I'm not being paid to do it, and when it's all my work and my choice, and I'm the one who gets to make the decisions about the build environment and how things get done, this is what we get. You get a guy working in C because out of all of the languages that I've worked with, out of all of the programming languages, developer environments, libraries, this combination of C and raylib has been the most pleasant so far. The most further that I would go is probably use C++ in the future. But the reason that I did C is because I wanted to very easily implement hot reloading so that during development I could make changes to the game's code while the game is running and have those changes picked up on the fly. At the end of the day, this is not something that's going to benefit the player that much, if at all. And that's okay, because by me going through the process of learning how to do that, I now have something new in my tool belt. Because at the end of the day, I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't learning. And what I was getting at earlier was that while I didn't have anyone to guide me growing up when I was learning programming, so I didn't have anyone to answer questions about how do I get started. If I were to go back in time and talk to my younger self, who wanted to do this much earlier than they started, or that they've been able to really get rolling, I would say you need to learn how to spawn a window and draw to it and be able to receive keyboard input. And you need to learn that much as quickly as possible. All of the good coding practices, all of that stuff, that comes with time. The design sense, the intuition of what objects you need to build, where they need to go, how things need to get organized in memory. A lot of that comes with experience. That's not anything that you can really know right out the gate without having at least consumed the knowledge first. So while you can learn how to program and everything, much faster, someone who's just simply trying to make a game might boot up Unity, click play, and then automatically have something, right? But what did they actually do? I would say nothing. I would say very little. So there is a difference. Forced to use very art-centric, terrible at code. Forced to use block coding if you want to release a game on. What do you mean by block coding? Could you tell me more about that? Because that sounds, scarily like something I have helped students with in the past called Scratch, which I also think is related to Alice. But I'm curious what you mean about block coding. Part of the problem with me in art is that, like, let's take something in ASprite as an example. So, like, let's take this dude, right? He's like 8 by 8, but look at that shading. look at the color choice, right? Like, this is some fantastic color choice and placement. It's not that many pixels. You know, if it's 8 by 8, we're talking. See, that's a 7 by 7 area. So 8 by 8 would be that. No, that's 7 by 8. And that's 8 by 9, but you get the idea. It's not very many pixels, but the choice about where the pixels go, what color they are, all of that stuff, you have to have a really keen sense to whip something out like this. In my mind, I would have to engineer a process to make this look good. I could sit down and just put some pixels down, observe it, and say, oh, that looks good. And then, test the animations and see that they all play nicely together. But that all takes time. That all takes clicking, that takes, drawing, that takes selecting colors, that takes knowing what the colors should be. In my head, this is a very mathematical process. It's very procedural. I did not draw this myself. But I can take this and edit it and tweak it if I need to. In fact, I've had to do that for a handful of these sprites. As an example of this, we have two different versions of spin die that we can look at, right? So in the original spin die that the guy provided me, there's a lot more wobble in each frame, where it appears like they wobble back and forth before they hit the ground. When they hit the ground, it's off center, and then they fade into the ground and disappear. So I decided to change this. My design aesthetic was that, okay, well, I actually want the bodies to persist on the ground. So I cut off the frames where they fade into the floor. In addition to that, I also slightly moved the frame so that they don't wobble as much. And that way it appears like they spin in place and then fall down to the floor dead. And I think this looks nicer, feels nicer, and fits together better in my setup. In another environment, you might consider keeping that wobble in, right? But to really take ownership over how I want this game to play and feel, I made that call, and it sucks because it's like, oh man, now I have to do this thing and it has nothing to do with writing code, and I hate using the mouse, dude. I fucking hate using the mouse so much. Sometimes you have to. So, with that in mind, well, if you've got that level of design aesthetic where you can think of colors in that sort of way, that's awesome. I wish I had that. I think people with color-based synesthesia are awesome. So, what was I getting at with all that? Oh yeah, so we have the bow in. We just did armor class. So it would probably be useful to have a way to display stats. It would be nice to have like a quick lookup to see like what you're equipped with currently. Like, it would be nice to get some non-humanoid NPCs in. Notice none of this has to do with the shape of the dungeon or anything. Like, doing the dungeon layout and the placement of things and making it look good, that's all its own giant, like, job that I have to do. But for the last couple weeks, I've been doing mechanics and assets, like getting more characters and stuff in. And then I also swapped over to the component system recently. The swap over was a huge success. I'm going to try not to migrate any more systems over to try and push things forward as far as I can. Thank you. Appreciate that. Always appreciate new people joining the channel. I try to make an effort to stream as often as I can because I know there will be a time in the near future when perhaps I am so busy that I will not be able to. And so, while I have the time now, I'll try to get out what I can. Graceface might need to go use the bathroom real quick. So, maybe now's a good time for me to take a break. Recharge, get some food and all that stuff, and think about what direction I need to push this thing forward next. I want to thank everyone for joining today. There will be more Evil Dojo here in the near future. Peace.